Welcome back to Explain America. This is your host, Kyle Becker. Attorney General Pam Bondi has dropped a bombshell on Washington, D.C., and the radical Democratic Party is scrambling because one of its one-time most prominent organizations for fundraising and protesting, it is under federal investigation and it is deadly serious. The left, well, they are scrambling because this looks absolutely terrible, and it shows that one of the biggest radical activist groups in American history, it was all a fraud, and it is now being exposed. But before we get into this story, please like, share, and comment at Explain America. Join us. We appreciate your support for common sense journalism. Now, federal prosecutors are investigating whether senior leaders of the Black Lives Matter organization defrauded donors who contributed tens of billions of dollars during the George Floyd protests. Now, the Associated Press first reported that the Justice Department has an ongoing inquiry, and it's focused on BLM's handling of donations collected in the wake of those riots and protests that ransacked throughout cities, and it essentially led to an uprising, an insurrection, if you will, if you count the way that they surrounded the Trump White House. And so this probe, it's being led by the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Central District of California in Los Angeles. I'm sure Gavin Newsom is really pleased with that. So investigators have issued subpoenas and executed at least one search warrant in recent weeks as they examined whether foundation leaders or related organizations improperly managed funds that were meant to be charity. So the scope of the probe is unclear, and not yet to this current date have charges been filed in this case. But according to the AP, and this is for any of you Democrats out there, this investigation was started under former President Joe Biden. So this is not a case of President Trump trying to get revenge on his political enemies. No, no, no. This started under former President Biden. And so the paper trail is quite damning. It goes back to tax documents. This is not a thing about, well, right-wing critics say or Republicans suggest. No, this has been something that's been going on under a Democratic presidency, and it's just continuing till this day. So let's give an example of this corruption that has been uncovered when investigating the Black Lives Matter organization. In 2024, a BLM activist named Sir Major Page, don't ask me, that's his name according to the documents, he was sentenced to 42 months in prison for wire fraud and money laundering in connection to BLM of Greater Atlanta, well, Lesser Atlanta in this case. He was convicted of swindling donors out of more than $450,000. So this is just the tip of the iceberg because a 2023 report estimated that only 33%, that's 1/3 of you out there who struggle with math, they went to any form of activism while executives were paid millions and millions of dollars. Wow. So that was really a glimpse at how terrible this organization was run. And following the murder of George Floyd in 2020, and some critics would say, well, he died in large part due to fentanyl overdose, but we're not going to get into the nuances here. A staggering $90 million went to Black Lives Matter, and this nonprofit ended the last fiscal year with a $9 million deficit. Kind of sounds like the Kamala Harris campaign, doesn't it? So the federal filings from 2020 to 2022 show just a third went to the charitable organizations, and 2022, it essentially showed that $22 million went to expenses, and that's through the last fiscal year when it filed. And so let's give it a quick breakdown of some of this alleged corruption. This includes $1.6 million that went to the father of BLM co-founder Patrisse Cullors for security services, And another $2.1 million went to BLM board member Shalomia Bowers for consulting. Wow, that's a very vague term, isn't it? So Cullors left BLM leadership in 2021 after documents revealed she spent millions on luxury homes in Los Angeles and Georgia. Well, radical activism sure does pay, doesn't it, folks out there? So in any event, just beware of these radical organizations that say that they're involved in social justice, because it really looks like the wealth redistribution that they're engaged in, well, it's going to themselves, much like every other Marxist organization on earth. So weigh in with your thoughts. What do you think about BLM? Do you think this is enough? Because I see a lot of rioting that was incited by BLM activists. We never got justice for all of this, just like we didn't get justice for a lot of things yet. And the American people, they really are craving accountability and a warning to those who want to defraud Americans and incite riots and engage in defrauding the American people. So weigh in with your thoughts. We always appreciate hearing from you at Explain America.